Hey y'all, this is Jessica with Bless Your Heart. Let's do a wavy line vinyl wrap with glitter today. I'm going to start off by taping the bottom of this tumbler off. This is a 20 ounce from MakerFlow Crafts. I'm just going to wrap some electrical tape around it, and I'm going to use my edger tool to get a nice crispy line, and we're going to move on to the next step. I'm going to go in and base paint with Prime Time, and I'm going to put a good coat over the entire tumbler. Once I get it all coated, I'm going to put it to the side and let it dry. For my glitter adhesion today, I'm going to use the Epoxy Method, and I'm using Flynn Sisters Supply Shop Fast Set. I'm going to use the smallest amount I can get away with. And you're going to notice as soon as I start rubbing the epoxy on the tumbler, the paint kind of starts to come up. I am thinking that is because I didn't put a thick enough coat on there. For my glitter choices, I'm using Create by Firefly pinstripes and the Glitter Guy Cosmic, Hades, and Akoya. I'm starting with the darkest glitter on the very bottom. We're going full coverage around that very bottom rim, and I'm going to tilt it almost vertical to get kind of a blend. Since we are wrapping this with vinyl, I'm not really worried about the blend, but I do need to cover up those chips in the paint. For my mid color, I'm going to tilt the cup towards the darkest color and just let it fall where it may. And then I'm going to tilt it almost vertical the other way to kind of get this to come up a little bit higher. As you can see, this is not covering the way that we need it to, but I'm going to keep going and we're going to see how this turns out. For the final color, I'm going full coverage around that top rim, and I'm tilting it almost completely up and down and letting that fall down as far as it will. Once I'm done pouring that glitter, I'm going to take this Akoya and I'm going to go full coverage top to bottom and side to side. Now in my mind, this is going to kind of soften everything and it's going to kind of blend out those paint chips a little bit, but we'll kind of see what we end up with. For my vinyl choices today, I'm using Balloon Animals from BAMF and Dalmatian Dots from Peachy Olive Glitter. I have created a wavy pattern and I have cut the exact same cut file out of both of these pieces of vinyl. This Balloon Animals is a semi-transparent, so everywhere it's white, you will see that glitter shining through. So we're going to weed out what we're not going to need, and we're going to get ready for the next step. Once we get all that weeded, we're going to pull over our Dalmatian Dots. And this is, like I said, the exact same cut file, but I'm going to pull sporadically from that to put in between some of these pieces. So we're going to have some of the glitter coming out. We're going to have some of the Balloon Animals with the glitter poking through. And then we're going to have some of this opaque vinyl of the Dalmatian Dots. I'm going to go ahead and put it on this piece of backing. That way I can put it all on the cup at the same time. I'm not going every line. I'm just going to kind of go maybe every other line or so. I'm going to put this new piece of vinyl down and we're going to see what we end up with. I figured out through trial and error that if I stick one of these ends to my arm, it kind of keeps it from getting so messy on the actual design. And it's a little bit easier to control. So I'm just going to continue to put these stripes where I want them, and then we're going to move on. Once we are happy with all of that placement of vinyl, I'm going to get my transfer tape out. I'm going to just roll this out and place the entire sheet face down as close to a straight line as I can, because that should help me keep everything nice and balanced and straight. And then I'm going to get ready to place it on the tumbler. Once we have everything cut down to where we need it as far as the transfer tape, we want to make sure that it is going to line up as best as it's going to line up. This is not a seamless pattern, but it is one that meets up. I am going to gently pull it off the backing and roll my cup onto the vinyl. You do want to be mindful to take that piece of transfer tape that you're using as an anchor, pull it back, because that's going to be a pain in the hiney to get off if you've got vinyl on it. So once we get all this done, we are going to carefully pull off all of our transfer tape, and we're going to check out our handiwork. So now that I've got the transfer tape off, I'm going to go in and use my edge tool here, and I'm just going to make sure everything is nice and crispy on the top rim and the bottom rim. After that, I'm going to coat the entire tumbler in polycrylic, and then I'm going to epoxy it to get ready for the next step. Once that layer of epoxy dries, we're going to go ready to do our vinyl striping. I'm going to use this real pretty piece of vinyl from Hobby Lobby. It's got some texture and it's just very iridescent-y. And our vinyl striping is going to be an offset of our original cut file. So I did an offset of 0.40 and then I did an inset of 0.40. And that's just going to give us a little bit of a slightly thicker vinyl striping. And that's just going to help everything kind of come together and just all match real nicely. I am only doing vinyl striping on the actual balloon animal vinyl, but it's going to end up looking like we've got it on both sides of all of that vinyl. I'm going to go ahead and weed out what I'm not going to need, so it's going to be easier to get to what I do need. And these are just outlines, so be careful when you're popping them up. I do like to keep the pattern kind of close to the cup so I can see that I'm putting it on the correct piece of vinyl, but I'm just going to keep moving down the cup until I'm completely done. Since these are kind of thin, wiggly pieces of vinyl, I do stick it to myself like I did with the original cut file, just to kind of have a little bit more control with it, and so I'm not so apt to tear the vinyl because these are skinny little pieces. When you're laying down these longer pieces, if you just keep your fingers moving over the waves, how they're lined up, it's a little bit easier to do. If you stop and start so much, those little wiggly pieces are going to kind of twist and turn on you, and you really don't want to stretch this pattern out much because it's not going to fit like it should. Because keep in mind, these are cut exactly to the original cut file, so everything should line up pretty spot on. Once we're done with all that vinyl striping, I am going to go in and put a layer of polycrylic because we have touched this cup all over. And after we get the polycrylic nice and dry, we are going to epoxy until smooth. And here we go. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today. I hope to see you again soon. Bye.